Welcome to the Firefly Tutors TV podcast, where real teachers from all over the country discuss real solutions for parents and educators alike. Here's your host, Marissa Johnston.
Hello and welcome to The Buzz, brought to you by Firefly Tutors TV, where we talk to administrators, educators, and parents all across the country about topics affecting school children today. Welcome to the podcast, Sarah Neal. Sarah is an 8th grade English teacher at Kyrene Aprende Middle School in the Kyrene School District, just east of Phoenix. She brings a wealth of knowledge to this discussion, having taught multiple grades over the course of her career. I'm fortunate to have called Sarah my friend for over 10 years since we worked alongside each other teaching 4th grade for a Title I school in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you for joining us, Sarah.
I'm so happy to be here with you. It's always good to see you.
Likewise. Our discussion today covers ways to guide students towards independent learning with teachers acting as facilitators. In gifted education, when a student claims to be bored in the classroom, this might be code for something deeper. A gifted student comes with such nuanced behavior, it's often difficult to decode the meaning of particular classroom behaviors. So, Sarah, to start off, let's discuss what some of these specific behaviors might be. How do parents and teachers translate these outward clues to motivate and help students find a passion for learning to reach their highest potential?
So some of the behaviors you will see in the classroom, especially from gifted students, like even more, especially from those who tend to fall on the side of a little bit unmotivated, is that you'll find them with their heads put down on their desks. They will just do whatever it is to get out of the work. But that's kind of where the fun lies in it, because when those students do say that they're bored, chances are that's actually not what's going on at all. And I think we're going to discuss that today, and I'm looking forward to that. But really, the giftedness really just shows itself in different ways. Some of our students also show perfectionistic tendencies. And once they have those, and that's something that they're extremely used to, well, once they're pushed a little bit further, we could see meltdowns. We can see all sorts of other behavior things happening just because now our students who have been so used to succeeding without trying, something is now become a little bit challenging, and we don't know how to deal with it. So that's kind of some of the things we see in the classroom these days with some of our gifted students.
Definitely. And I know a lot of times there can be this misunderstanding and thinking that it's a bad behavior when really there's an underlying cause for what we're seeing here.
Yep, you're 100% correct about that, because we, as outsiders or anybody that's viewing gifted students, they're like, oh, these kids don't even have to try. Oh, it's just super easy for them. And that's what they hear throughout their lives. It just, oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're brilliant. And that's what they hear. And they're not really hearing that it's not that easy for everybody. People do have to work to be able to accomplish things that some of the other gifted students just have so naturally. So, it's just what they've heard for so long that anytime we're met with challenge, we don't even know what to do. So
I'm so glad you bring that up, because ultimately those words have a huge impact on these kids once they reach adulthood too. And we'll discuss that a little bit later as well. But just they do kind of go through their schooling with this idea that nothing should be hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be more detrimental than you would think.
Yes, and it hits students at very different times. Sometimes it may hit in 4th grade where they hit a challenge that they don't know how to overcome. And for some people, it may not hit until we're in college and we realize that we didn't actually learn how to study, or grad school even. And you think you're okay until it happens, and then it's like, wait, what do I do? What do I do? So it's even, applicable to adults as well, who maybe were former gifted students.
Definitely. So what strategies can be employed to identify the underlying cause of a gifted student's bored behavior in class?
Really just picking it apart. Because I've noticed, with the students that I've worked with in the past, that that word, I'm bored, that is really, with the teeniest percentage, that's really not what's going on. It's really that I've been hit with a challenge. I don't know what to do with it. I know that a lot of the adults in my life are going to accept the answer, I'm bored, because, well, why wouldn't you be? The teacher's obviously not giving you, challenging enough work. My child is bored. But if the teacher really looks at it, or the parents just take a moment to stop to say, hey, is this really what's going on? They may be able to open just like this whole world of things to see, like, oh, maybe it's not boredom. Maybe you're just now freshly challenged and you're not sure how to proceed. And that's really what it comes down to, because a lot of the students that I'm working with, I would see this especially in math, because a lot of the gifted students that I have worked with have been, mathematically talented, and
Right.
they are used to hearing, from a teacher's instruction, okay, this is how you do it, throw that traditional algorithm with it. They're extremely good at following patterns, and voila, they've got it. They don't have to see a lot of examples. So maybe they really are bored because you're, throwing examples at them. They're like, oh, I did this. I already know how to do it. I don't want to do it anymore. Yes. Well, so why don't you try to unravel that problem for me? Can you show me how to do that backwards? Can you show me how to model this with a picture? Something along the lines of that is kind of where you really do want to take the kids. Because, either, well, one, they still legitimately are bored and now they do need that challenge, and it's up to the teacher to really kind of know how to bring that out. Or two, it could be the other situation where I'm just saying I'm bored when, in fact, I really don't know what's going on in the first place. So it's kind of two different issues, and I've seen both, but they're there. They exist.
Well, and when you mention, the child who might be saying I'm bored because they really are stumped, it also kind of brings up this issue of them not knowing how to ask for help or how to approach someone to get the help they need. And that is another issue too.
Yeah, they've never had to do that before because, again, everything's come so easily to them that that's not something that's really in their vocabulary. And they maybe fear that, oh, the other kids in the class have thought I've been so smart for so long, I don't really have anything to back that up with now. What am I going to do? And then we kind of go into a panic mode because we don't know how to ask the teacher for help, because we're afraid now that everybody else in the classroom is going to be like, oh, so-and-so doesn't know the answer to this. Oh. And, in reality, that may not really be what happens, but they've just never come across it before. We're young and we just have to learn how to ask. And, as the teacher, it's kind of up to us to recognize that that's what's happening and to create that safe space in our classroom where the students, it doesn't matter who it is, teachers, students, higher functioning, others, that we can ask questions and not be afraid of what's going to come back to us. Nobody's making fun of anybody. I mean, smart kids can have questions too. It's okay. It's just having that realization that we're all in the same boat together and we all understand some things. We also have things we don't understand. So,
yes, and it is such a crucial skill, not only to be able to ask for help, but to know exactly what kind of help you need. Being able to look at a problem and communicate to someone, this is the part I'm not understanding. I don't get how we get from here to here. Can you please help me with just that? Pinpointing exactly where someone needs help is also a crucial skill.
That's absolutely huge. And being able to bring metacognitive strategies into your classroom to really break down, well, I know this answer, and this actually works well with the students who are gifted and can solve things easily, because if you ask them, well, what did your brain tell you to be able to come up with that answer? Oh, they have no idea. They're just like, it's 17. Well, can you explain to me a little bit more about why it's 17? And they're like, because my brain says. Well, what process did you follow to get yourself there? And that's one of those things, because maybe they are really quick with an answer, but how did I really get there? How did my mind, set forth this plan? they don't really have much of the foggiest idea of how they got to it, other than they just knew it. And, that digging into the metacognition is something that could be hugely powerful and this is just good teaching, like with any level of student. Oh, well, I was just going to, reiterate that, using metacognitive strategies in our classroom is something that is so huge and can be used with any level of learner, not just our high flying learners. It's really, being able to sit down and dig in to know that, these are the steps that I actually took to get to my final answer. That's hugely powerful because, in math, in reading, everything is so related that to get from here to here, well, I may not know how exactly to solve this problem, but I do know something else. And you can kind of put those together to form a lot of understanding.
So, Sarah, you touched on these students kind of having their own pressure upon them, that they're super bright, they're always good at something, they're gifted. I mean, it's in the title, right? Well, honestly, a lot of times these kids grow up to fulfill leadership roles. Now, the goal there should be to create great leaders, not leaders who hold themselves above everyone else and kind of have this disposition of I'm better than everyone else, like a superiority issue. So what can teachers, what can educators, what can parents, what can tutors do to kind of help them along that path of developing good leadership skills as opposed to the I'm better than you mentality?
100% to model that good leadership can look a variety of different ways. It's not someone, as a matter of fact, a good leader is not someone who thinks they're better than everybody else. A good leader is really someone who's, not afraid to get into the trenches and, do the job of the lowest man on the totem pole or, something along those lines as well. But there is that confusion that I'm the smartest. I'm the one who's going to lead us through this right now. Well, if you don't have any interpersonal skills, it doesn't matter how smart you are. No one is going to listen to you. So it's really just modeling that kindness, showing that you can be open to different perspectives. And again, that a whole other world can open yourself to it, but it does have to be very intentional in a way. Because if you're, saying something to the kid, and there's also a chance that interpersonally they're not kind of catching what you're throwing down. So that's where the intentionality comes through here, is that, sometimes you're going to have to talk to students and really just lay it out for them that, and I've had to have this conversation several times before with, maybe some students who they're using their smartness in, it's like, did you just say that? Oh no, we're not going to pretend we're better than other people. You just have to kind of lay it down to them like, okay, so this is what I'm hearing you saying. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you think other people are perceiving what you say? And just having a conversation based on that, because even some of our youngest students, they can handle that conversation. They are very capable of deeper thoughts and can think about how, well, I know that's me, but okay, not everybody thinks like me. So, wow, I am kind of a jerk. So it's really, having those tough conversations with students who may be coming across in the wrong way, and really just modeling all of that, just gracious, almost servant leadership kinds of things for them to say, okay, well, I saw my teacher, doing this, and she made mistakes, but it didn't make her feel bad. And she doesn't make this kid feel bad because he's making mistakes. And I made a mistake once before and she didn't make me feel bad. So, maybe I can take a little something from that. But again, it does come with being pretty intentional, because in the classroom as teachers, we often also we rely on our gifted students a lot to do a lot of heavy lifting, and we rely on them. And sometimes even the rest of the students rely on them because they know, oh, this person has the answer, I can kind of just like sneak to the back and not have to answer anything because this guy's got it. Well, no. So you're not getting away with that. But it's also, you know, creating for our gifted learners that place for them to show that they don't always have to be the leader in the situation.
Right.
So we often are, because that's kind of naturally where we fall, but it's sometimes nice to give others a chance to develop their leadership skills as well. So that's kind of another thing that needs to intentionally being built in. So if we're noticing gifted learners, you know, just always being right up there in the front and having that something that they need to make them feel okay, well, we need maybe a lesson on how to, you know, back up a little bit to let other people shine as well.
Well, and I really, really like the way that you presented having that difficult conversation with them too, of just helping them to realize it wasn't necessarily what you said, or sometimes it is, but also how you said it. You know, this is how it sounded to me. Is that how you meant it? You know, because then it does give them that safe space. It's not you telling them you were being very rude to, you know, student. You know, you need to check yourself, or you need to watch the attitude, or you need nothing like that.
Right.
We have to show empathy first.
Oh, 100%.
For them to develop it. So we have to say something along the lines of like, I don't know if you meant to sound the way you did, but this is how it came off.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, when I've had that conversation with a student, they go, I didn't mean it that way. They're horrified.
Yes.
Do you notice the same thing when you have those discussions, even with 7th and 8th graders?
Exact same thing, except I feel like maybe in 7th and 8th grade, we're figuring things out. We're figuring where we fit into the world. So with the older kids, I actually do find that the upper elementary kids are a little bit more accepting of that. But here in middle school, we're dealing with lots of other things. Like we could be the most gifted child who is capable of the highest scores and everything, but right now we want to look cool. So let's bury that a little bit, you know. So it's kind of, middle school's a little bit different in navigating that, but man, is it ever fun to watch? I'll tell you that.
So that brings up a good point too, Sarah. What do you do for the gifted child that's hiding their giftedness, that doesn't want to be in the spotlight, because I've seen this before too. They intentionally act like they're struggling, or they're mediocre, just so that someone will leave them alone.
You just have to, find whatever it is to encourage them. Sometimes that does come with one-on-one conversations with them to say, hey, I see you. I see that you're hiding, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And sometimes they're extremely forthcoming with like the struggles or with, any challenges or the pressures they put on themselves from the beginning of always being the person that was, leading the class discussion. And they're like, no, I'm not interested in this anymore. I don't want anybody to know that I'm smart or that I'm gifted or anything like that. But there are other ways to, keep them engaged in it. Maybe we could have some sort of just like with a student that I'm actually currently working with right now, he has a notebook that he writes things down in that I will occasionally, I'll peek at, because he really does not want to be like out, like in the public eye. He's cool to just sit in class, absorb, and then have his own thoughts, but he still has a place in that notebook where he can share what those things are. So I'm getting from him what I need to see. And he actually started doing it on his own. He was kind of doing it on the sly, and I would just find these crumpled up pieces of paper on the floor, and I would open them up, and it had all the answers to like questions that I was asking for a discussion in class. And I'm like, yeah, I see you. So he didn't, want to share out loud, but he was definitely sharing. So that was kind of a cool experience to have with him. So that kind of brought me to, a notebook situation. But really at this age, it could be a variety of things. With middle schoolers, sometimes you really have to just let them do whatever it is they're going to do. And if at this point in our lives we're going to decide that we need to hang back a little bit, I'm going to let you do that, as long as you can keep your, the learning where it needs to be. As long as we continue doing the work, I'm gonna let you slide a little bit,
Yeah.
and because the last thing you want to do is like push anybody, because I've also seen what that looks like. That's, I've pushed you to, just be out there and delivering everything, and now you're completely shutting down and you no longer will work because you were forced. No one wants to
Right.
be forced to put on a dog and pony show. So kind of you just have to really choose your battles. And as long as you are showing me that you're picking up the content, as long as you're showing me in some way that you really understand and kind of are putting a little bit of an extension on it, you're good to go. Like, giftedness doesn't always come in the form of being verbal and sharing out like that. But it is just a matter of still kind of recognizing them and seeing them and say, like, I recognize what you can do. How can we put that to good use?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is important for us as the educators in their lives, whether we are the homeschooling parent or the classroom teacher or the tutor, whatever we are, to remember the goal, the intent overall. Where do we want this child to end up? Because if your goal is to create a public speaker, okay, then you might have to push them to come out of their shell. But if your goal is for them to pass, pre-algebra, they don't necessarily have to do that by being vocal about it. They don't have to answer out all the time in class by raising their hand and saying the answer. Like you described with the student, they might just be able to write their answers down where you walking through or walking by can see them and acknowledge, yeah, that's correct. You're still doing great.
Exactly. And it's, at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. I'm not here, like, this is not public speaking school. No. This is, we're just here to see that you get what you need from us, that you're ready to go on to that next grade and you're able to be successful. Of course, I would love my students to all be performing at amazingly high levels, but that's just, that's not where we are. So it's like, did you learn something today? Awesome. Okay.
Well, and the thing there too, Sarah, is they might be performing, at very high levels, but in different ways.
Oh.
So you have advanced students in math, advanced students in reading. You have your drama stars. You probably have. Oh, you had a trained athlete too as one of your students. So your students are all excellent. Just it's not always going to look the same, and that's true for gifted kids as well. There are various types of gifted, categories.
Yeah.
I remember the student who was musically gifted, but gifted nonetheless. So we still needed to provide, the necessary curriculum structure and everything for that child. But there are so many different modalities of giftedness as well.
No one would ever, we have Albert Einstein on this corner and Michael Jordan here. We're not trying to compare them. Their brightness and their shine is in very different areas, and trying to fit someone just like into that little box just because they are gifted, that would be a horrible plan, like the fish climbing a tree or riding a bicycle or whatever.
That was the thought that came to my head too, was if you judged, I think it was Albert Einstein that said it, actually. Don't quote me on that, but if you judged every animal based on its ability to climb a tree, the fish will always fail.
Yep.
Well, yeah. And that's true for kids as well. Is there a little bit of benefit to kids comparing themselves to their peers or even, their own progress? Certainly, but within reason.
Oh, absolutely. Because, to say that I'm going to be an Olympic athlete, no. That's just, let's be honest, that's just not happening. So it's like, kids need to really have that realistic, that view that where I am is okay, gifted, not gifted, just a kid in life. I'm on the right path for myself right now. And as long as we continue to grow and continue to learn, we're going to get where we need to be. And that's really all there is to it.
Yes, definitely. So how can teachers foster independent learning in students while still providing support to keep them on track?
First, and this is really, really tough for type A teachers, you got to let go.
Yeah,
And that
you
is
do.
it is so difficult because as teachers, we don't want to see our students falter. We don't want to see them fail in any way. We just want to, build them up. But it's in that failure, and that's kind of a strong word. It's in that failure that
That struggle.
the
It's in that
struggle, the
struggle.
productive
Yeah.
struggle, that they will learn the most. Because again, back to kind of bringing it full circle to where we started, that it's really in that failure and maybe having never done that before that we learn more about ourselves and how to process that challenge the next time that it comes around. Because if we've never struggled, we've never had to go through any sort of failure in our lives, we're not going to know what to do. So in the classroom, it's okay for teachers to provide the opportunity to just fall on your face in the softest and nicest way possible. Of course, we're not really necessarily trying to set anybody up for failure, but like, even if you do, you're actually teaching your students a valuable lesson in that, hey, failure, it's okay. And everybody needs to go through that every once in a while just to see kind of what they're made of. And if they don't like what they see at the other end of that, hey, let me provide you with some strategies that you can use next time to help that fall be a little bit softer.
Yes, yes. And they gain that themselves as well. They, like you said, they learn about themselves, they learn about who they are. And then they also learn who they can lean on, and that it's okay to lean on someone, you know. And it's true what you said. When creating that productive struggle situation, it should never be the educator's goal to actually cause distress or discomfort or give them something that results in an actual F on their grade report. But it is there intentionally because children need to learn how to overcome obstacles that will be presented to them, because inevitably life will present obstacles.
Always.
And so we have to prepare them for that. And like you said, in the softest, most pillowy way that we possibly can, because it's hard. I don't like to see my students struggling. It's so, and we do have to hold ourselves back as teachers too. We can't jump in and do it for them.
Oh, yes.
They won't learn that way.
Yep, exactly. I am not cutting this for you. No, we've got to, cut the apron strings here at some point, and you don't want to turn into a 30-year-old that can't cut out a circle. So, I mean, very strange, strange example there, but hey, I've seen it. Yeah, there are just all sorts of things. It's like, hey, this is something we need to learn, but let's practice a little bit. Let's get you where you need to be. And just like, all of it really does lie in truly getting to know your students and what they need, because the answer for one student is definitely not the answer for another student, and it goes on and on. So basically, when we're teaching, it's first year every year, because you have a completely new set of students every single year with their own individual needs, and it's just a matter of getting in there, getting to know them, getting to know what they need, and having your big old teacher toolbox full of tricks to know what to pull out. So
yes. And even parents who are homeschooling, they are going to witness their child experiencing change just among themselves. And I'm sure that these parents also can, commiserate with us. I don't know if commiserate is the right word, but just, relate to us that every single year is a brand new year presented with brand new challenges.
Yep. As your kids get older, new challenges there, and they're going to maybe start doing things that you're like, what? excuse me, what is this?
Yeah. Hold on.
Turns out that
you were 3 years old yesterday.
Exactly. And turns out kids grow up and do weird things, and it's okay. It's just, you just handle whatever's thrown your way, and that's the best any of us can do, right?
Well, and hopefully they become weird adults, because those are some of the best ones out there.
Love weird adults.
Yes. If you enjoyed our discussion today, please like Firefly Tutors on all your social media hubs like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Find us on Pinterest, where we pin all our favorite resources for parents and tutors. At Firefly Tutors, we believe every student deserves the opportunity to develop to their highest potential. See you next time on The Buzz.